The machines are beeping. That's the first thing that registers. Not the pain. The pain is buried somewhere beneath the fog of anesthesia, a dull throb that belongs to someone else. It's the beeping that pulls you back to consciousness. Steady, rhythmic. The sound of your own body, monitored and measured and held in place by tubes and wires. Your eyes won't focus. The ceiling is too bright. Everything is too bright. You're in the recovery room at Cedar Grove Hospital, and you've spent enough years as a trauma ICU nurse to know exactly what this moment is supposed to feel like. You're supposed to feel relief. The surgery is done. The shoulder reconstruction went smoothly. Everything went according to plan. But something is wrong. You can feel it before you can think it. A wrongness in the air. Something in the tension of the nurses who keep checking your vitals. Something in the way they avoid your eyes. Your phone sits on the bedside table, and even through the medication, you can see the screen is dark and angry with notifications. Your mother has called so many times that the voicemail icon is almost pulsing. Your father, too. Even numbers you don't recognize. It's been 8 hours. You are under anesthesia for 8 hours, and your family has been calling non-stop. A nurse comes by, someone you don't recognize, which is strange because you know most of the recovery room staff, and she checks your IV without meeting your gaze. "How are we feeling, Miss Whitfield?" she asks, her voice artificially bright. "Something's happened," you say. Your voice doesn't sound like your voice. It sounds small, thin. Something bad. She doesn't answer, but her jaw tightens. You wait until she leaves, and then with a hand that feels like it belongs to someone else, you reach for your phone. There's one voicemail, just one, from your father. You play it, and the anesthesia fog suddenly lifts like a door slamming open. "Emma, it's Dad. We handled everything while you were asleep." His voice is calm. So calm, the kind of calm that means someone has rehearsed these words 1,000 times. "We'll talk when you're more alert." Handled everything. Those words don't make sense. Nothing handled itself while you were unconscious. You don't have anyone to handle things. You live alone in your townhouse, you're independent, you pay your own bills, you manage your own life with the kind of meticulous care that comes from building something from nothing. Before your father's voice came through, you were going to ask a nurse for ice chips. Now, you feel like something is happening in your chest that might be a heart attack. "No," you whisper. The heart monitor picks it up. Your pulse spikes. A nurse returns and you grab her wrist. "My townhouse," you say. "Call my bank, call my title company, please. Something's wrong." She looks genuinely frightened by the desperation in your voice, and she pages a supervisor. It takes another hour and a phone call to your bank before anyone confirms what you already know. Your townhouse, the townhouse you spent 8 years saving for, is no longer in your name. The transfer happened at 2:47 p.m. You were still under anesthesia. Your signature is on the documents. Your signature that you know you didn't sign. You lie there, on the hospital bed with your freshly reconstructed shoulder and your racing heart, and you cry. Not quietly, not the composed tears of someone processing information. You cry like your entire world is collapsing. Because it is. You cry because your parents, the people who taught you to work hard, to save, to be responsible, have just stolen the one thing you've built with your own hands. Welcome back to the family revenge tales. Your mother arrives the next morning. She looks like she hasn't slept, which immediately tells you something else is very wrong. Your mother never admits weakness. She's the kind of woman who puts on lipstick before getting blood work done. She sits beside your hospital bed, and you notice her hands are shaking as she smooths down her jacket. "Mom," you say, and your voice breaks. You hate that your voice breaks. "Tell me what you did." We transferred the townhouse to a buyer, your father's colleague, Gerald Marsh. He's a respectable businessman. He'll take excellent care of the property. I didn't approve that. I revoked Dad's power of attorney years ago. I handed it to him before surgery. I handed it to him in the waiting room. Your mother's face doesn't change, but you see her throat move. She swallows hard. She opens her mouth. She closes it again. And in that silence, you know she knows. You know that your father ignored the revocation, that he went through with it anyway. There must have been some confusion about the paperwork, she says finally, and her voice has taken on that quality it gets when she's constructing a lie that she's already convinced herself is true. Your father was just trying to help. You know how he is, always thinking about the family. Help with what? You sit up slightly, your shoulders screaming in protest, and you don't care. Help with what, Mom? I'm 36 years old. I don't need help. I need to know why my home is gone. She looks away, out the window, at her hands, anywhere but at you. Your father has had some financial difficulties, she says quietly, and Sophie's wedding is coming up. We wanted to make sure everything was perfect for her. We wanted to be able to help. The words hit you like a punch. Your father, financial difficulties, your sister's wedding, your home. How much, you ask. What? How much did Dad lose? How much money are we talking about? Your mother doesn't answer, but she doesn't need to. You can see it in her face. It's bad. It's so bad that your family decided your life was the price to pay to fix it. Mom, I painted every room in that house myself. I planted the flowers in the garden with my own hands. I worked doubles to afford it. I gave up vacations and relationships and every luxury I could think of. For 8 years, Mom. 8 years. Your mother finally looks at you, and you see something in her eyes that you've never seen before. You see her choosing the lie anyway, choosing the story that makes everyone the hero instead of the truth that makes everyone a criminal. It's just a house, Emma, she says. You can get another one. You have your career. Those words sit between you like poison. Get out, you say quietly. Emma, get out of my room right now. She leaves, and you lie there in the hospital bed with your broken shoulder and your shattered world, and you understand something your ICU experience has taught you. The sickest people aren't always the ones on the monitors. Sometimes the sickness is invisible. Sometimes it's in the way people betray the people they're supposed to love. You leave Cedar Grove Hospital 3 days later, and Rachel Hayes insists on staying with you. Rachel has been your best friend since nursing school, and your charge nurse in the ICU. She takes one look at your face and doesn't ask questions. She just takes you to a furnished townhouse she rents, feeds you soup, and sits with you in silence when you need silence. But you don't rest like a post-operative patient should. Instead, you start investigating. It begins with details, hospital records, operating room logs, the exact timestamp of when the anesthesia was administered, the exact moment the surgeon finished, 8 hours and 23 minutes during which you were completely unconscious, your body on the operating table, your consciousness miles away in chemical darkness. The townhouse transfer happened at 2:47 p.m. You pull your smartwatch data. At 2:47 p.m., you were in the operating room. Your heart rate was monitored. Your oxygen levels were recorded. Your body was there. Your mind was gone. Whoever signed those documents, you tell Rachel one evening, pulling up the timestamps on your laptop, it wasn't me. Then it's fraud, Rachel says simply. You nod. Yes, it's fraud. But knowing it and proving it are two different things. You call Nathan Cole, a real estate litigation attorney whose name you get from a colleague whose cousin went through a property dispute. His office is small and quiet, and he listens more than he talks. When you finish laying out the timeline, the surgery, the transfer, the forged documents, he leans back in his chair and asks you one question. Who benefits most if you never challenge this transfer? You think about that. Your father, obviously. But why? Your father owns a successful construction company. He's supposed to be comfortable, supposed to be stable. Then you remember the conversations you've overheard, your mother's voice on the phone, tight with stress, the word bankruptcy whispered in the kitchen, your parents closing their bedroom door quickly when you walked past. My father's in financial trouble, you say quietly, and my sister is getting married in a few months. Nathan's expression doesn't change, but something shifts in his eyes. Understanding. Then we need to find out exactly how much trouble. What unfolds over the next 6 weeks shatters every story you've ever believed about your family. Nathan brings in Detective Karen Ross, a financial crimes investigator who moves through documents like a hunter tracking blood in snow. What they find is a financial collapse of staggering proportions. Your father didn't just lose money, he hemorrhaged it. Cryptocurrency investments that went to zero, speculative real estate deals that failed spectacularly, options trading, margin calls. He lost over $220,000, and rather than admit it, rather than face the consequences, he decided that you would be the solution. But it gets worse. He took out a home equity line against the property using forged documents. $60,000. He didn't just sell your house, Miss Whitfield. He borrowed against it before he sold it. You feel something break inside you. Not your composure. Something deeper. Something that's been holding you together since the moment you woke up in that recovery room. How much does he owe? You ask. To Gerald Marsh specifically? About $180,000. The rest is scattered across various creditors, credit cards, investment accounts, a few private lenders. You close your eyes. Your father didn't steal your home because he wanted to help Sophie's wedding. He stole it because he was drowning, and instead of asking for help, instead of admitting failure, he decided that you would be the solution. Sophie finds you on a Tuesday evening. She shows up at Rachel's townhouse with red eyes and shaking hands, and you know immediately that she's figured it out. "Tell me the truth," she says, sitting across from you at the kitchen table, "about the wedding money, because I just asked Mom where it really came from, and she stopped talking, and I know what that means." You don't make her beg. You pull up the documents on your laptop, the forged signatures, the transfer records, the home equity line, the financial statements showing losses that are almost incomprehensible in their scope. You watch it hit her in stages, confusion, then shock, then a kind of hollow betrayal that mirrors your own. "How long?" Sophie whispers. "Since at least 3 months before your engagement, probably longer. They told me it was a gift. They said they were so proud of me, so excited for my future. They said they wanted to make sure my wedding was perfect." "They wanted to bury Dad's debt," you say gently, "and they used your wedding to make it look noble." Sophie cries then, the kind of crying when you realize the people who raised you are capable of cruelty you didn't know existed. You hold her while she falls apart, and you realize something. Your parents didn't just betray you, they betrayed her too. They made her complicit in a crime while she was planning her happiness. Nathan Cole builds the case methodically, without drama or emotion. He files a civil lawsuit to void the fraudulent transfer. He files a title fraud claim. Detective Ross opens a criminal investigation into forgery and financial crimes. Each action is a thread, and each thread pulls tighter until the entire structure collapses. Your father tries to negotiate. He calls you on a Thursday evening in late August, and his voice is different than you've ever heard it. Smaller, frightened. The voice of someone who's realized his daughter is about to destroy the image he spent his entire life constructing. Emma, we need to talk about timing. The charity gala is in 3 weeks. Sophie's wedding is 2 months after that. If this becomes public before the gala, it ruins everything. The announcement, the celebration, all of it. Can we just wait, just for a few months? You're quiet for a long moment. You want to scream at him. You want to tell him that he ruined everything the moment he forged your signature, that you don't owe him silence or mercy or anything at all. But you're not going to scream. No, you say quietly. Emma, please, I'm your father. Doesn't that mean anything? It did, before you decided that your shame was worth more than my home. I made a mistake. You made a choice, many times. You chose not to tell me. You chose to forge my signature. You chose to borrow against my property. You made 1,000 choices, Dad, and every single one of them was to lie. You hang up before he can respond. The Charlotte Charity Gala happens on a Saturday night in early September. The entire city seems to be there. Business leaders in tuxedos, socialites in designer gowns, charity board members, donors, your parents' entire world of appearances and prestige and carefully constructed lies. Sophie's future in-laws are there, dressed in clothes that cost more than your monthly mortgage payment used to be. They smile and shake hands and talk about the upcoming wedding as if it's still going to happen, as if the foundation beneath their daughter's engagement hasn't been built on fraud. Your mother wears emerald green. She looks beautiful and terrified. Your father wears a tuxedo and moves through the room like a man still convinced he can control how people see him. He laughs at jokes, he makes toasts, he introduces Sophie to people and puts his arm around her like he's the hero of her story. You arrive at 8 o'clock in a black dress carrying a binder. You stand near the window during cocktail hour and watch him work the room. Richard Whitfield, successful contractor, devoted father, respected businessman. The perfect image, the perfect performance. You watch him laugh at something a colleague says, and you think about all the nights he came home from losing 6 figures in cryptocurrency and pretended everything was fine. All the days he looked at you and decided you were worth less than his pride. The toast happens at 9:30. Richard stands with a glass of champagne in his hand, and the room quiets. You've heard variations of this speech your entire life. Family is everything. Love means sacrifice. He's always been willing to do whatever it takes for his daughters. He talks about Sophie like she's his greatest achievement, as if his love for her is the measure of his character. The room applauds. Sophie's face is pale. She's been pale all week. You set down your drink and make your way toward the microphone. Your father's smile disappears when he sees you standing there. He knows. In that moment, watching you approach with the binder in your hands and the calm in your eyes, he knows that everything is over. I just want to add something, you say, your voice steady despite the rage burning in your chest. Because my father just talked about sacrifice and love and doing whatever it takes for his daughters. And I think everyone deserves to understand what that actually means in my family. The room is silent now. You can feel every eye on you. Feel your mother's panic radiating from her table like heat. On the day I had emergency shoulder reconstruction surgery, you continue, I signed away power of attorney in case anything went wrong. I gave my father documents that revoked all previous financial authorities. I handed them to him in person before I went into the operating room. I wanted to make sure that if something happened to me, he could make medical decisions, but he couldn't make financial ones. You open the binder. While I was unconscious, while I was on an operating table with my shoulder being reconstructed, my father transferred my townhouse to one of his business associates. The townhouse I spent 8 years saving for. The house I painted myself, room by room, on my days off. The property I financed by working doubles and giving up vacations and every luxury I could think of. You hold up the first document. Here are my hospital records. I was under anesthesia at 2:47 p.m., the exact moment my home was transferred out of my name. My signature on the transfer documents was forged. You see Gerald Marsh's face change. He's starting to understand. My father also took out a $60,000 home equity line against my property using forged documents. He did this because he lost over $220,000 in failed investments and cryptocurrency schemes that he never told anyone about. Your mother stands up. "Emma, this isn't the place." "Sit down," you say, and your voice is like ice. You lied to this entire room. You lied to your daughter. You stood at this table and talked about family sacrifice while you were erasing mine. You turn back to the crowd. My father didn't steal my home to help pay for Sophie's wedding. He stole it to cover his own financial collapse. And while he was doing that, while he was forging my signature and borrowing against my property, he told my sister that he was giving her a gift, that he was proud of her, that he wanted to make sure her wedding was perfect. You look directly at Sophie's future in-laws. What you need to know is that the money being offered for this wedding came from fraud. It came from the theft of someone's life savings. It came from a man who was willing to destroy his daughter to protect his reputation. The room is absolutely silent. You can hear the champagne fountains in the background. You can hear the string quartet that cost more than some people make in a year. You can hear the sound of your father's entire world collapsing. "I have documentation for everything," I say. Medical records, bank transfers, forged signatures, title fraud, home equity line details. Detective Karen Ross has all of this information. She's opened a criminal investigation. My attorney Nathan Cole has filed civil suits. What was done to me is not a misunderstanding. It's not a mistake. It's a calculated choice to steal from me and lie about it. You close the binder. I'm 36 years old. I'm a trauma ICU nurse. I have built my own life with my own hands, and I was not going to let my father's shame destroy that without anyone knowing the truth. You look at your father. Really look at him, and what you see is a small, frightened man who thought he could control reality through lies. The strongest act of love, you say quietly, is telling the truth, even when it hurts, even when it costs everything. You walk away from the microphone, and no one follows you. The legal process takes 6 months. The outcome is inevitable. The court voids the fraudulent transfer completely. Your townhouse legally returns to your name. Detective Ross's investigation results in charges against your father for forgery, fraud, and financial crimes. He faces trial. He's convicted. He serves 18 months in prison. Your mother, faced with the evidence and the criminal investigation, finally admits everything. Her perfect image is destroyed. The life she spent decades constructing is gone. But something else happens, too. Something unexpected and painful and necessary. Sophie stops speaking to your parents for a year. Then she slowly, carefully, begins to rebuild a relationship with them. But it's different. It's conditional on honesty. It's built on accountability instead of pretense. She postpones her wedding, not indefinitely, but long enough to think about what she wants, separate from what her parents wanted for her. She moves into a small apartment with a college friend and gets a job in marketing. She discovers who she is without her parents' money funding her choices. Rachel stays with you through all of it. She helps you move back into your townhouse a year after the surgery. You repaint the walls yourself, the same colors you'd chosen when you first bought it. You plant new flowers in the garden. You replace the furniture that Gerald Marsh had removed. You reclaim your space, inch by inch, until it feels like yours again. One evening in March, almost exactly a year after your surgery, you sit on your porch with a cup of tea and you cry. Not because of anger or pain, but because you're finally home, because you fought for something that belonged to you, and you won. Your parents still exist in Charlotte, but they exist differently now. Your father is a convicted felon. Your mother has retreated into isolation. No more charity galas or social circles. They live quietly, invisibly, the way people do when they've lost everything that mattered to them. Sophie calls you sometimes. You have lunch occasionally. She doesn't mention them much, and when she does, it's with a kind of careful distance, like she's learning how to love people while maintaining healthy boundaries. And you, Emma Whitfield, the woman your parents believed was too weak to fight back, the one they thought would be too exhausted and too loyal to challenge them, you stand in your townhouse with the walls you painted and the garden you planted, and you understand something essential. You aren't stronger because you never feel anything. You're stronger because you feel everything and choose truth anyway. Thank you for letting me tell Emma's story. If you're watching this, please subscribe and join us again next week for another tale of family, betrayal, and the quiet power of the truth. Because the strongest people aren't the ones who shout the loudest. They're the ones who refuse to let someone else's lies rewrite the life they built with their own hands. Remember this. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't getting revenge or getting even. It's calmly telling the truth and letting it speak for itself. The people worth keeping in your life will hear it and respect you more for your honesty. The people who can't handle it were never really yours to begin with. And sometimes the greatest gift we give ourselves is the courage to let people face the consequences of their own choices, because that's where real love begins, not in protecting people from the truth, but in trusting them to handle it. This story teaches us something profound about the true nature of love within families. It reveals that real love is not about protecting someone's reputation or enabling their lies. It's about speaking truth even when it costs everything, because silence is a form of betrayal. Emma's journey shows us that financial abuse and emotional manipulation often hide behind the language of family sacrifice and loyalty, and that recognizing these patterns is the first step toward reclaiming our own lives and dignity. The story also demonstrates the redemptive power of accountability, not as punishment, but as the only pathway to genuine healing and trust. Perhaps most importantly, this narrative teaches us that our greatest strength often emerges not from avoiding pain, but from walking through it with eyes open and integrity intact, understanding that we cannot build a meaningful life on the foundation of other people's lies.